Best life ever. Please enjoy.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard, you lead the strongest ship of the Federation fleet. You speak for your people.
I have nothing to say to you, and I will resist you with my last ounce of strength.
Strength is irrelevant. Resistance is futile. We wish to improve ourselves. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service ours.
Impossible. My culture is based on freedom and self-determination.
Freedom is irrelevant. Self-determination is irrelevant. You must comply.
We would rather die.
Death.
How you doing, guys? Hope everybody's enjoying the new year so far. Can you believe it is 2020? Didn't seem like too long ago when everybody was making a big deal that it was the 21st century when it hit the year 2000. And here it is 20 years later. Anyways, guys, for anyone who doesn't know, the prison system in the United States are privately owned businesses. That's right, businesses. They work on government contracts. The more inmates they have, the more money they make. Seems to be pretty lucrative because there's no shortage of criminals in this country. As a matter of fact, the prison population in the United States exceeds that of any other country. But supposing the crime rate drastically dropped, fewer people to arrest, fewer people in prison, that would mean that the prisons would be making less money. So what would these privately owned prisons do? They would have to advertise. And what would they try to convince the population? That prison life is the best life ever. Well, we know that's not true. And we also know that there's not going to be any shortage of criminals. There's enough dumbasses in this country and crooked people to keep the prison system going forever. The Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, a business in trouble. Now, you could make comparisons to Watchtower and prisons because they also hold their rank and file almost under lock and key. The difference is prisons physically keep their inmates locked up. Watchtower use something stronger than a lock and key because they keep them emotionally imprisoned. Let's face it, the longer you're involved with Jehovah's Witnesses, the more family you have, the more time you have involved, the stronger the lock. For the longest time, people live out of fear. They don't want to leave. They're afraid of losing their family. But in the last several years, let's face it, more and more people are waking up. Not only are people leaving individually, now entire families are leaving. And for those whose entire families are leaving, there's no lock at all. Now, obviously, they have a lot less money coming in because of the two things that they have in common, prison and Watchtower. Obviously, the more prisoners they have, the more money they make from the government. Watchtower, the more members they have, the more donations they get. Now, it's true that right now they have various business interests under various corporations. But from the beginning, their core income was the rank and file. And with fewer and fewer and fewer witnesses every year, there are less and less and less donations. So what do? They have to convince the remaining witnesses that this is the best life ever. And they hammer it into them to the point where many of them actually believe it. When you pull yourself away from the table and look at the whole picture, you realize, no, it isn't. You're told how to feel. You're told what to think. They will do their thinking for you. As a matter of fact, they will do everything for you. All you have to do is sit in that emotional cell and do what we tell you. My last few years, I stepped back and I looked. And I watch these people defending this organization over and over and over. Now, we all know there's a lot of PMOs. There's a lot of people that are in that are awake. The thing is, not all of them want out. There are people who are fully awake in the organization right now that still defend it tooth and nail. And why? Because they're still under that emotional lock. They know it's a lie. Matter of fact, one person towards the end of my reign in there knew full well everything that I knew. He knew everything I was saying was true because there were some things he actually pointed out. When it came down to it, he ratted me out. He denied knowing anything out of fear of man. And he was living in a fear of man because he's afraid to lose his association with Jehovah's Witnesses. Basically, on the outside, he has nothing. But oh well. When you pull away and look at the whole picture, on the inside, you also have nothing. But they got them convinced that this is the best life ever. And my last few years in, I realized that I was absolutely miserable. And I felt like a prisoner. Everywhere you go, you pretty much have to look over your shoulder. Because you know full well, as soon as they see something that isn't quite right, they're going to rat you out. Hell of a way to live. And these are your so-called brothers and sisters. Never was that close to anybody in the organization, so the lock to my cell wasn't that strong. And although I made my escape and I walked away, what did they do? They sent the posse after me. And that was the worst thing ever. I mean, you know what it's like sitting at home, knowing they're at the door, knocking away, and you just really don't want to answer. I had to have several phones just so that I could keep away from them. But they would be at my door. When that didn't work, they started pestering me at work. They tried the guilt trip. That didn't work. They tried the emotional tug. That didn't work. Now that is, most of your JWs, that's their downfall. They do the emotional tug. If their families are in, that's the biggie. See, most people don't want to lose their family. They don't want to lose their friends. I was very fortunate. I came in at a late age, so I had already lived my life. So I recognized the little box that they were all in pretty much from the get-go. So when I disassociated myself, and although they had to put down a record that I was DF'd, no, I walked away first. Their paperwork was a formality. They had nothing on me. They had no way of really reeling me back in. And although one idiot tried, and to this day I know he knew everything I knew, but like I said, he lives in fear of man. I don't. I mean, really, they only have the power that you give them. But right now, Watchtower is in dire straits. They are hurting financially. They have multi-million-dollar lawsuits all around the world, so basically, what do? The remaining witnesses, they have to hit them up for more donations. People are getting fed up with the donations. I mean, consider this. The average JW probably survives on macaroni and cheese. I can guarantee that the guys at the top are not eating macaroni and cheese. But they also don't want to dip into the coffers. So they will hit you up for more donations to pay off these lawsuits. That's why they're selling so many properties, which I'm going to go into on my next video. Anyways, you could consider, guys, Watchtower a prison. Like I said, it's a stronger lock than your physical prisons because they do it with emotion. Anyways, guys, that's all I got to say today. Leave your comments below and I will talk to you soon.